A few months ago, I decided to camp in the Mojave Desert. I'm 32 and a freelance photographer, always seeking nature for inspiration and peace. I set up my camp near an impressive rock formation. At first, it felt calm and still. I thought this would be a great way to recharge. The first night, I settled in quickly. The sun dipped, casting beautiful colors in the sky. It was quiet, just the wind and some distant buzzing of insects. I took a few photos, feeling good. But when night came, I peeked out of my tent around midnight. I noticed flickering lights in the distance. I thought it might be other campers, but they vanished when I looked closer. I felt a knot in my stomach. I tried to shake it off and crawled back into my sleeping bag, but sleep wouldn't come. The next night, I lay awake, staring at my tent's roof. Then I heard a low hum like an engine far away. It came and went, and my heart raced. I rubbed my eyes and told myself I was just tired. After struggling for a while, I mustered the courage to step outside. As I moved around, the hum faded, but then I heard laughter. It didn't sound like kids' laughter, it was unsettling. My skin prickled, and I felt something watching me. I wanted to run back inside, but I forced myself to stay still. I looked around, but I saw nothing. On my last night, I wanted to capture some stars. I stepped away from the tent, clutching my camera. The air was cold against my skin. That's when I noticed odd patterns in the sand. They were circles, drawn carefully, like a message. I bent down to take a closer look. Something felt off, and I got chills all over. I stood up quickly. That's when the laughter echoed again, closer than before. I felt a strange pull, like the desert was urging me to stay. I froze, unable to move. Then, soft as a whisper, a voice called my name. "Jake," it said. The wind carried it away, and I turned around, feeling panic set in. There was nothing behind me, just the dark emptiness of the desert. My heart raced louder now. I decided I'd had enough. I rushed back to my tent, my feet feeling heavier with each step. I packed everything as fast as I could, fear coursing through me. By the time I got into my car, I just wanted to drive. I don't really know what happened those nights. I keep thinking about the lights, the strange sounds, and those mysterious patterns in the sand. I want to convince myself it was all in my head. But deep down, I can't shake the feeling that something was out there, watching me closely, waiting. The drive home was a blur. I wanted to escape, but my mind raced with fragments from the desert. I thought about the flickering lights and the laughter. Trying to shake off the tension, I tuned into the radio, but the noise only amplified my unease. By the time I reached the small town near the entrance of the desert, I felt utterly drained. I pulled over to a gas station, hoping to find some semblance of normalcy. The fluorescent lights flickered painfully as I stepped inside. I approached the cashier, an older man with a weathered face and tired eyes. "How was your trip?" he asked casually, but I could sense the underlying scrutiny in his gaze. "It was fine," I replied, hesitating. "Just some camping in the Mojave." His expression instantly shifted. "You seen any strange lights out there?" My stomach knotted again. I didn't answer right away. I felt his eyes on me, waiting. "Yeah, a few folks have reported lights and sounds. Some even say they've seen things." He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "I tell you, that desert can play tricks on your mind." I nodded, swallowing hard. "Tricks?" "Yeah. They say the Yagui come out after dark," he said, his tone edged with unease. "Yagui?" I asked, unfamiliar with the term. "The local legends. Weird beings. You never know who or what you might encounter after sundown." He chuckled nervously, but didn't look away. I paid for my gas, my mind racing. The thought of what I had experienced came flooding back, each memory twisting tighter. What if it hadn't been just my imagination? I thanked him and left the store, but instead of heading home, I found myself driving back toward the desert. What lay there? The mystery pulled at me. I wondered if the desert had more to say. As I neared the campsite, the sun began to set again, casting shadows across the terrain. I parked but hesitated before stepping outside. Once again, the stillness of the desert surrounded me. I unpacked my camera, adrenaline swirling in my veins. I wanted to confront whatever it was I had faced. I wasn't sure if I'd find answers or only more questions, but I knew I wouldn't feel at peace until I tried that. As I stepped away from my car, the shadows deepened, and a chill shot through me. That's when I saw them again, faint lights flickering off in the distance, just as I had seen before. They danced and twisted like fireflies but didn't seem to move away. My heart raced as I instinctively raised my camera, wanting to capture the moment, but my hands trembled. Then I heard a soft laughter, just like before, echoing through the night. It pierced the stillness, but this time, it felt different. It was almost inviting. That I was torn. Should I follow the sound? Should I run? But before I could decide, the laughter morphed into something else more like a melody, and it pulled at me stronger than ever. I took a step forward. And then everything went dark. I woke up on the ground, my face pressed into the cold earth. My camera lay beside me, its screen cracked but still intact. The desert was silent now, the flickering lights and laughter vanished. I pushed myself up, blinking away the disorientation. The scene around me was eerie. Night had fully set in, but instead of the stars shining brightly, a heavy cloud seemed to cover the sky. I looked for my car but felt an unsettling emptiness where it should have been. Panic welled up inside me. Did I wander off too far? As I got to my feet, a distant light caught my attention. It flickered again, seemingly beckoning me. Against my better judgment, I felt drawn to it. I took cautious steps forward, my heart pounding. With each step, my surroundings shifted. The dense darkness felt heavy, like it could swallow me whole. I stumbled over uneven ground, the sands shifting beneath my feet. Then I heard it again, the laughter. This time, though, it was different. It sounded sharper, almost mocking. That I quickened my pace, fueled by a mix of fear and curiosity. The light grew brighter, taking form just ahead of me, a faint silhouette flickering like a candle in the wind. As I approached, I saw shapes moving around it. Shadows darted and danced. Suddenly, a figure broke away from the group and rushed towards me. My instincts kicked in, and I took a step back. The figure halted, hands raised. "Wait!" A voice called out, startling me. That it was a woman, her hair wild and her eyes wide. Her clothes were torn, a patchwork of fabric that looked like it had been through a storm. "You shouldn't be here," she said, panting as if she'd been running. "It's not safe." "Not safe?" I echoed, my voice shaking. "What do you mean? What is going on?" "There's something out there," she warned, glancing nervously behind her. "You heard the laughter. It's calling people. If you hear it too long, you won't want to leave." A shiver ran down my spine. Could I trust her? This was the first person I had seen since arriving. My thoughts raced back to the stories I had heard at the gas station, the lurking Yagui. She suddenly grabbed my arm. "We have to go. They'll come for you next." Before I could respond, I heard the laughter again, now much closer. It twisted in the air, sending chills through me. The woman's grip tightened, and we began to sprint away from the light, the haunting sound following us. I could feel panic mixing with confusion. What did she know that I didn't? Who or what was pursuing us? As we ran, I stole a glance back. In the flickering light, figures were emerging from the shadows, their forms shifting and blending into the darkness. I froze in fear, realizing I might not be able to escape whatever was happening. Then I stumbled, and as I fell, I felt the ground slip away beneath me. That's when I saw them, those strange beings, standing dangerously close. The laughter echoed in my ears, blurring the line between reality and nightmare. It was then that I understood. I might never leave this place. I landed hard, the sand cushioning my fall just a little. As I scrambled to my feet, I felt a wave of panic wash over me. The laughter mixed with the chattering of voices, overlapping and legible, pulling me deeper into uncertainty. With the woman still at my side, I shot up and looked around frantically. The figures lingered just out of reach, their silhouettes shrouded in darkness. They twisted and contorted, drawing closer. I could barely see their faces, but I knew they were watching. I started to run again, legs heavy with dread. "We can't go that way," the woman yelled, pulling at my arm again. "This way." She led us to the right, away from the flickering light of the campfire and deeper into the dark. My knees shook as we zigzagged through the uneven terrain. Each step felt like it was carrying me further from safety. The laughter echoed behind us, mocking us, as if the shadows were dancing in delight with each stumble I made. I had grown weak and disoriented. Why was I in this nightmare? My mind raced back to my camera and my misplaced sense of adventure. "Who are they?" I gasped, trying to catch my breath. "The Yagui," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They lure you in. If they catch you, you'll want to stay with them forever." I could see her eyes darting around, wild and terrified. Their words ran through my mind, a warning that I couldn't shake. The Yagui. An idea flickered to life with every telltale laugh. I had heard the stories before, whispered in the corners of the gas station. They blended the allure of the desert with fear, warning travelers of what lurked in the shadows. "What do they want?" I managed to ask, taking one hesitant step forward. "They want to keep you here," she replied, her voice urgent. "They feed off our desires. It's not just the laughter. You'll see things that make you want to stay." Before I could process that, we reached a narrow rock formation. Small cliffs jutted out protecting us, but I sensed it wasn't enough. The pit in my stomach twisted tighter. The laughter grew louder, filling the space between the rocks. It transformed into a chorus of voices, rising and falling like a dark melody that crept under my skin. "Make it stop!" I screamed, trying to block it out. I pressed my hands to my ears, desperate to drown out the monstrous sound. Suddenly, the laughter shifted. It turned into whispers, seductive and inviting. "Stay with us," they sang. "You'll find comfort here." My heart raced as eerie visions flitted through my mind, people dancing joyfully by the fire, bright smiles and endless nights. It looked so alluring, so carefree. I fought against it, shaking my head furiously. "Don't listen," I shouted to the woman, whose gaze had drifted momentarily to the light. That's when I noticed something glimmering on the ground nearby. I stepped closer, drawn to it despite the rising fear in my chest. It was a necklace, glinting beneath the scattered starlight. That's when I saw it, a hand gripping the necklace, a hollowed-out husk with sunken eyes behind it. I gasped and stumbled back, recognizing the horror in its gaze. "Run!" I shouted. But it was already too late. Something shifted in the shadows, and a figure emerged towering and menacing, blocking our way. The laughter rose again, a choir of despair echoing off the rock walls. They were closing in. I couldn't breathe. The figure loomed closer, its shape undulating like a mirage in the desert heat. The whispers grew, swirling around us, and I felt myself freezing in place, a mixture of fear and fascination taking hold. The woman pulled on my arm, her grip tightening as she tried to urge me into action. "Move!" she shouted, her eyes wide with terror. Suddenly, instinct kicked in. I took a step back, then pivoted, nearly colliding with the rocks. We had to get away. I wasn't going to become one of those husks. The necklace glinted beneath the dark, a cursed charm wanting to ensnare me more deeply. That we ran, my heart pounding in rhythm with the whispers. But I wasn't the only one hearing them. The woman turned and faced me, her features twisted in fear. "We can't hide forever. They'll know where we are." I didn't want to think about being found, but panic clawed at my throat. As we darted behind a boulder, I noticed a peculiar shift in the atmosphere. The trees around us were trembling. They were alive, and somehow aware of our plight. I could feel the branches reaching out, as if seeking to grab us and drag us back. "Over here," she yelled, pointing toward a hollow opening in the cliff face. It looked risky, but I didn't care. I was ready to take any chance. We crawled into the narrow gap, breathless and fearful. The whispers faded slightly, but the laughter remained, reverberating against the rocks, mocking our desperate attempt to escape. Inside, the space opened into a small cavern. My pulse raced, and my skin tingled with the oppressive energy in the air. The walls glittered with minerals, catching the sparse light trickling in. Shadows danced like phantoms, and I felt an overwhelming urge to explore deeper. The cavern felt alive. It was comforting, like a warm embrace. "Stay close," the woman whispered, her voice barely audible. "We don't have much time. They'll follow us." Then, I spotted something glinting on the far side of the cave. My curiosity overshadowed my fear. I edged toward the light, ignoring her warning. There sat a small wooden box, beautifully carved, half buried in the sand. "Don't!" she hissed, but my hand was already reaching for it. There was an unbearable pull, irresistible and raw. As I lifted the lid, a gust of wind surged through the cave, extinguishing the pale light. I froze, my heart racing in the dark. The whispers escalated into frantic chaos. I heard what sounded like sobs, agony spilling from unseen mouths. Then, it hit me. A flood of memories rushed in, images of laughter, of bliss, and a shimmering life I could almost touch, blended with shadowy figures lurking just beyond my vision. That I slammed the lid shut, retreating back, but it felt like I had opened a door that couldn't be closed. The whispers morphed into screams, crashing against my mind. I stumbled backward, grasping for the safety of the wall, panic clawing at me. "Get away! Now!" I yelled, dragging the woman with me. But even as we turned to flee, a shadow loomed at the edge of the cavern, a silhouette flickering in and out. The organization of darkness pulled together, morphing into something grotesque. And then everything went dark. I wasn't sure how long we had been in the dark. Time felt suspended, swallowed by the echoes of our rapid breaths. The cave's silence was unsettling, more terrifying than the chaos outside. I turned, trying to steady my breathing as I groped the rough stone behind me, desperate for a plan. "Can you see anything?" I asked, my voice barely a murmur. The darkness felt suffocating, and I strained my eyes for any sign of her. "No," she replied, her tone laced with panic. "But I can feel it. We need to move." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I felt around for her, but before I could find her hand, that oppressive energy hit again. The whispers returned, icy fingers scraping at my mind, but this time they didn't fade. They coiled tighter, a menacing presence smothering us. "Back to the box," I said, urgency creeping into my voice. "We have to deal with whatever we let out." She gasped but didn't argue. Together, we stumbled toward the place where the box had rested. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground was trying to hold us back. The cave's walls buzzed now, an electric hum that reverberated through my bones. As we drew closer, the shadows flickered again. My heart sank, it was as if 1,000 eyes were suddenly upon us. A low growl emanated from the depths of the cave, vibrating through the stone. "Please tell me that's just in my head," I whispered. That we stopped in our tracks. Something was definitely alive down here. "There!" she gasped, pointing at something swirling just beyond our sight. It was like smoke that had taken on a form shifting and writhing, filled with an unholy hunger. I could feel it press against my skin, seeking entry. I was terrified, remembering the vivid sorrow I'd glimpsed when I had opened that box. What were we dealing with? Let us find a way out, I suggested, trying hard to suppress the tremor in my voice. Then I saw it. At the back of the cavern, a faint light peeked through a series of cracks. My heart surged. We had to reach that escape. Follow me, I cried, racing toward the glimmer. My feet moved faster than my mind could process. I knew that whatever we had unleashed would not let us leave so easily, but just as we reached the light, a roar erupted from behind us. The noise was deafening, sending shockwaves of terror through me. I turned to see the darkness expand, coiling like a snake ready to strike. Run! I screamed, not looking back. My instincts kicked in, propelling me forward. We bolted towards the light, the sound of the growl morphing into a terrifying laughter, echoing through the cavern. Our hands touched walls slick with moisture, desperation pushing us onward. The light grew brighter, and I could see the exit now, a sliver of salvation across the craggy stone. Suddenly, the ground bucked beneath us. We stumbled, falling hard. The darkness rushed forward, swirling and consuming the space around us. Just before it closed in, I caught a final glimpse of the box, its lid slightly ajar. That's when I realized. Whatever had been inside had awakened. And it wasn't alone. We weren't just being chased, we were being hunted. We scrambled to our feet, adrenaline coursing through me as I pulled her close. The cave felt alive, buzzing with a sinister energy that pressed against my skin. The laughter echoed again, chilling my bones. It was right behind us, hungry for our fear. We need to keep moving, I yelled, the urgency slamming into my chest like a fist. With no time to waste, we darted towards the light. I could see it flickering like a candle. It was our only chance. As we raced forward, the ground trembled once more violently this time. It was as if the cave itself was protesting our escape. I glanced back, and in that moment, horror seized my heart. The shadows had morphed into a massive, twisting figure, its eyes glowing like embers in the dark. "Stop looking back!" she cried, tugging at my arm. I forced myself to pull away, focus on the gleaming hope ahead. But my feet felt like lead, the creature's malevolent presence weighing me down. We pushed against the wall, desperately trying to reach the opening. The light ahead was blinding, almost mocking us as we stumbled closer. But just as we were inches from freedom, the figure leaped forward, blocking our path. It was enormous, a writhing mass of shadow and smoke. The laughter faded into a low rumble that vibrated through the ground beneath us. I could barely breathe, panic clawing at my throat. Then everything shifted. The light surged, illuminating the creature, revealing forms within the darkness. Faces twisted in anguish flickered before my eyes, whispers of lost souls trapped in its grasp. "No!" I screamed, the sound tearing from my chest. "What do you want?" The walls of the cave quaked as if it were answering me. A sharp pain sliced through my chest, and I gasped, doubling over. It was like the fear itself was spilling out of me, drawn in by the creature's hungry gaze. "Keep moving," she shouted, pulling me back towards the narrowing exit. Summoning every last ounce of strength, we lunged for the light. I felt a sharp snap as something clamped around my ankle, but I didn't look down. I couldn't. I had to fight through. As we surged forward, something heavy fell behind us. A boulder crumbled from the cave's roof, crashing beside the creature. Dust and debris filled the air, a thick cloud that choked out the creature's form for a fleeting moment. "Now!" I urged, and we dove through the light, tumbling into the cool night air. Pain seared my ankle, and I gasped again, but I forced myself to roll to my feet. We were outside. But terror didn't abate. As I looked back, the cave loomed in the moonlight, ominous and quiet now. The laughter was gone, but a furious whisper still lingered in the breeze, tugging at my mind. What had we unleashed? I glanced at her, wide-eyed. Did we get away? But I knew the answer. The shadows were still there, just behind the surface. They had followed us out, and for the first time, I could see the truth: the darkness was only waiting for another chance. As the breeze shifted, I realized it wasn't over. Not yet. The wind howled as we stood outside the cave, still catching our breath. I could feel my heart racing, the taste of fear bitter on my tongue. What do we do now? I asked, glancing around the dark expanse of the desert. I think we need to get as far away from here as possible, she said, her voice shaky but steady. She was right. Every instinct told me to run. I started to lead the way down the rocky trail that should take us back to our campsite, but the ground felt different beneath my feet, almost alive. Each step felt heavy, as if invisible hands were gripping my ankles, urging me to stop. Just a few yards in, I paused. My gut twisted. Do you sense that? I asked. She nodded, her eyes darting into the shadows cast by the sparse moonlight. There was something in the air, an unsettling presence, an echo of that laughter from the cave. I took a deep breath and pressed on. The path was narrow, hugging the cliffside, and the darkness seemed to thicken. Suddenly, a rustling noise caught my attention from the underbrush. I turned to her, panic surging through me. Did you hear that? Before she could respond, something darted across our path, a blur of fur and shadow. What was that? I gasped. It looked like a fox or something, she stammered. I squinted, heart pounding in my chest. In the dim light, I couldn't be sure. The desert was full of creatures that came to life at night, but this felt different, more sinister. Let us keep moving, I urged, quickening my pace. But as we walked, the rustling continued, seeming to follow us. Every crackle of leaves sent jolts of fear through me. I wanted to turn and confront whatever it was, but I couldn't shake the memory of the creature in the cave. I glanced back, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw glowing eyes watching us from the darkness. Don't look back. Just focus on the campsite. She shouted, pulling me along. I nodded, forcing my legs to move, but all I could think about was that feeling of being hunted. After what felt like an eternity, we finally reached the clearing where our campsite lay. The flickering glow of the fire welcomed us, but it didn't feel as safe as I'd hoped. I dropped my pack and glanced around, half expecting to see that shadowy figure emerge from the trees that we sat by the fire, its warmth a temporary comfort. The crackling flames danced wildly, casting flickering shadows around us. What was that thing? I finally asked, my voice low. I don't know, she said. But we can't stay here. If it followed us out, her words hung heavy in the air, and dread filled my chest. I scanned the tree line, half expecting the darkness to swallow my fears whole. That's when I noticed something amiss, a distinct shape at the edge of the light, just beyond the reach of the fire. Do you see that? I whispered, pointing. She turned, eyes wide, and in that moment, I knew we were not alone. And then, without warning, the shape stepped into the firelight, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. Something deep inside me screamed to run, but I was frozen, eyes locked onto the impossible sight before us. What do you want? I managed to croak, but the figure only stared, a silent sentinel in the night. The figure took a cautious step forward, and my heart raced even faster. The shadows clung to it like a second skin, morphing and shifting as if alive. I wanted to shout for help, but my voice caught in my throat. I am not afraid of you, I stammered, though the words felt hollow. I felt anything but brave. Just behind me, I could sense her tension, her breath quickening as she moved slightly closer to me, seeking comfort in my presence. Who are you? She asked, her tone bolder than mine. The figure remained silent, its face obscured. I squinted, attempting to find some semblance of humanity within the darkness, but saw only shadows and more shadows. The cave, I whispered, remembering the chilling experience. It's here to finish what it started. My mind raced with images of that laughter echoing off the stone walls, and I fought the urge to flee. Then, just as abruptly as it had appeared, the figure shifted, gliding gracefully back into the darkness beyond the fire's light. My heart sank as an unsettling silence fell. The air felt heavier, pressing down on us like a weight we couldn't shake off. "What now?" she asked, her eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "We have to stay together," I said, focusing on the flames to ward off the feeling of being watched. "We can't let it separate us." She nodded, but the fear in her eyes was plain. I grabbed a nearby stick and poked the fire. The flames danced and flared, casting eerie shadows that leaped like specters against the rocks. But then, a whisper pierced the silence, a low, almost imperceptible sound that sent chills down my spine. "Help me," it seemed to call, the voice indescribably familiar. I froze, my mind scrambling. "Did you hear that?" I whispered frantically. She nodded, her expression pale. "It sounded like someone we know." I pushed back, the panic rising in my throat. "That can't be possible." My heart sank. "We need to get out of here. I was done with this place." The unease wrapped around me like a tight coil. As we stood to pack our things, a sudden gust of wind extinguished the fire, plunging us into darkness. Fear coursed through me as I fumbled in the black void. I tried to catch my breath, but the tightness in my chest was suffocating. "Shine your flashlight," she whispered harshly. I yanked it out, flipping it on and squinting into the beam of light. The shadows danced angrily, mocking us. The wind picked up again, and I felt an ominous coldness pulsing from the direction where the figure had vanished. But when the beam of light fell upon the ground, I froze. There, etched into the dirt, were weird symbols, twisting shapes that looked eerily similar to those I'd seen carved into the cave walls. "What the hell?" I breathed, crouching to examine them. "The markings," she murmured beside me. "They're connected to whatever we saw." And then I felt something moving in the darkness again. A rustling just beyond the trees, closer than before. We weren't alone. "Run!" I yelled, my voice breaking the silence, and we bolted into the night, the weight of our fear propelling us forward. The night air whipped past me as we raced from the campsite, adrenaline surging through my veins. Shadows danced across the edge of my flashlight beam, mocking our desperate flight. I didn't know what hunted us, but the sounds, snapping twigs and whispers carried on the wind, pulled at the fraying edges of my sanity. I risked a glance back, but the darkness swallowed the campsite whole, the last embers of warmth extinguished behind us. "Where do we go?" she gasped, struggling to keep pace. I didn't have an answer. Instinct drove us away from the choking fear of the forest and the shadows that lurked just beyond the trees. "That way!" I shouted, gesturing to a winding path that veered away from the rocks. We stumbled forward, each step feeling like it might be our last. The laughter echoed again, crisp and sinister, rising from the depths of the darkness. It was close, right behind us, laughing at our panic. "Keep running!" I yelled, but I could feel her falling behind. My heart ached with urgency, and, against my better judgment, I paused to grab her arm, pulling her along. That brief moment felt like an eternity, and I sensed the chill engulfing us. The mere breath of despair made it harder to breathe, amplified by our mounting exhaustion. "Jake," she pleaded, fear glistening in her eyes. We can't," I pressed onward, urging her to keep moving. "Just a little longer," I exclaimed, forcing myself to believe it. The road narrowed, twisting into an embrace of dense brush and the smell of damp earth, the almost pungent scent of decay. A stark light flickered in the distance, faint but undeniable. "Look!" I pointed, excitement and dread intertwining. It was the glow of the road at the edge of the park. I could see it just beyond the trees. "If we can get there, we have a chance." Without needing to say another word, we both pushed on. The laughter receded for a moment, as if it didn't want to intrude on our escape. But the shadows behind us thickened, and I turned my head, gripping her hand tighter. "We've got to go." With each pounding footfall, the ground beneath us felt like it was shifting, alive and determined to drag us back. The light flickered ahead as if it knew we were close, pulsing and vibrating with a pull I couldn't ignore. But so was the darkness, a mocking hand reaching out, seeking to snatch us back. Then the laughter erupted. I could feel it clawing at my sanity, echoing around us, entwining with our fear. Doubts swirled in my mind. What if we didn't make it? What if this was all a trick? No. I shouted back at the void, determination igniting a flame within me. Not this time. We broke through the tree line and burst into the clearing toward the road. But as we stumbled into the open, the air shifted. A gust of wind slammed into us like an unseen wall, a force that made it hard to breathe. We paused, the light blinding, barely able to grasp the reality around us. Our breaths came in heaving gasps, but we were alive. Standing at the edge of the road, the once distant sounds of civilization danced near my ears. Relief surged, but it was short-lived as the shadows clung to the fringes of the light. What now? She whispered, peering into the dark edges of my flashlight, trembling from the tumultuous journey through the night. I don't know, I admitted, my voice trembling as I surveyed the area. The laughter was quieter now, yet I felt it coiling around us, stitched into the darkness. Maybe an otherworldly rush surged through the trees behind us, a cacophony of whispers rising. Stay with us. It sighed, mingling with echoes of familiar laughter. No. I yelled, instinctively stepping away from the encroaching darkness. We can't. The shadows writhed, twisting with intent, and I felt the gravity of their despair. I turned to her, palpable fear flooding my chest. We have to find a way out. We can't let it take us. Not now. As I reeled from the paralyzing memories of the cave and all that haunted us, the light blinked once more, flickering like a candle caught in a storm. The urge to flee was inexplicable, yet fleeing felt like surrendering. Laughter echoed again, but it had transformed into something else, an invitation woven with ancient threads of lost souls. I felt the knot in my stomach tighten, the truth hovering over us: we hadn't escaped. The answers lay deep within those shadows, and they were watching, waiting to draw us back into their fold. Unfathomable questions loomed in the air. What were the Yagui? What had we really unraveled in that cave? With newfound resolve, I grabbed her hand tightly, feeling the warmth of her grip and the warmth of hope. Let us hold on to each other, I said quietly. No matter what happens, we face this together. For now, that was enough. The journey would continue, somewhere between the lines of fear and hope. I stepped forward, and together, we walked toward the pulse of the world outside, struggling to separate our reality from the nightmare that danced just beyond the edges of light.